The CoreconLink for QuickBooks Online utility is the bridge between Corecon and QuickBooks Online. This link utility eliminates duplicate entry and maintains consistency across your organization. To understand what information and how that information is moved between Corecon and QuickBooks Online, let's take a look at this business process diagram. Basic company information can be exported to or imported from QuickBooks Online. Additionally, the CoreconLink will allow information optionally to be updated between the information held in QuickBooks Online and the information held in Corecon. When you initially set up your CoreconLink to QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks will allow you to import active vendors, companies, and active customer companies. That basic information includes address, company name, and phone number. The light blue area on this business process diagram relates to time and expenses. Labor time cards, hours only, can be imported from Corecon to QuickBooks. They will be imported and allocated to employee time card records, but also allocated to customers and sub-customers in QuickBooks. Sub-customers in QuickBooks serve as jobs or a combination of projects and prime contracts as they appear in Corecon. Again, only the hours export, not rates, costs, or burden. You can also use the time and expenses under the feature Miscellaneous Expenses to export credit card information, debit card information, and employer reimbursements or out-of-pocket expenses. Those are recorded in Corecon, exported to QuickBooks Online. Equipment time cards do not export to QuickBooks Online. When it comes to Corecon's contract administration module, prime invoices, including any retention or holdback, will be exported to QuickBooks Online. Optionally, once information is exported to QuickBooks Online for prime invoices, QuickBooks will allow any payments that were applied subsequently to be re-imported back into Corecon prime invoices. This is basic information including the most recent transaction date as well as cumulative totals of payments made on a prime invoice. From the Corecon procurement module, bills and sub-invoices are exported to QuickBooks Online. In relation to Corecon sub-invoices, the retainage or holdback is also accounted for in QuickBooks Online. Optionally, information about payments made to bills and sub-invoices. After bills and sub-invoices are imported into QuickBooks Online, and once payments are subsequently made against those records or transactions, QuickBooks will allow information to export back to Corecon regarding payments made to vendors and subcontractors. Again, basic information including the most recent transaction date and any cumulative payments made after that transaction was exported to QuickBooks Online. Notice that purchase orders and subcontracts themselves do not export to QuickBooks Online. Only the bills and sub-invoices will export. A select group of Corecon users will be able to export and manage the CoreconLink to QuickBooks Online. If we go to Global Settings in Corecon V8, to Company Settings, and to Security, Corecon has provided two default Corecon security roles that will allow Corecon users to manage the CoreconLink to QuickBooks Online. Those would be the Administrator and the Financial Administrator. It would be important to check to make sure that the CoreconLink to QuickBooks Online has been added to your Corecon license. While we're in Global Settings, we'll go up to License and Add-on Information. and note that the CoreconLink has already been added. If you do not see this here, I encourage you to email billing@corecon.com and ask for that information. It's also important in Corecon, under this in global settings, under company settings, to go to global settings as well. We encourage you to lock transactions that are entered in Corecon once they have been exported through the CoreconLink to QuickBooks Online. Next, let's go back up to the company settings profile. You'll also need to make sure that the external applications being used under the accounting system, that Intuit QuickBooks Online is selected. Now let's take a quick look at QuickBooks Online. One of the options that the CoreconLink offers is to export to classes. This will be discussed later, but that is an option that you can turn on in the global settings under Account and Settings and Categories. We do recommend that you leave the track locations off and the project settings turned off as well. You may also want to give attention to your chart of accounts. We do recommend that the chart of account numbering is turned on and that numbers are assigned to those accounts that Corecon will affect when information is imported into QuickBooks Online. It's also important to note that the accounts that will be affected have a very specific detail type. So if this is not already turned on, that can be done under the column settings here on the right-hand side. The primary general ledger accounts are the bank or checking account, and you can have more than one. The type must be bank. You'll also need an accounts receivable account, the account type being also accounts receivable. There's a retainage receivable, and in this case, the type must be other current assets. You'll need an accounts payable account with a account type accounts payable. If you're tracking credit cards, meaning corporate issued credit cards, those would be listed. You can have more than one, and the account type will be credit card. These are liability accounts. There's also a retainage or holdback payable if retainage or holdback is tracked on sub-invoices, and the account type is other current liabilities. There may be required a sales tax payable account. The account type is also other current liabilities. Let's scroll down now to the part of their chart of accounts for the income statement. You'll need at least one income account, and the account type must be income. And next you'll need your cost of goods sold accounts. The number and how these are set up are going to be discussed later. But you will need at least one cost of goods sold account set up. And the account type must also be cost of goods sold. If sales tax on customer invoices or prime invoices will be tracked, you will need to make sure that your taxes are already set up before you make the CoreconLink. Intuit allows you to import these taxes and tax settings directly into Corecon, which will save a step later. If you plan to use classes, you'll also want to go to the global settings. Under lists, click all lists and set up the classes. How and what information should go there is covered a little bit later. It's important to note, relating to cost of goods sold, that you will not need a separate GL account for every cost code. If we go back to the global settings and to products and services, before you begin this next step, we encourage you to add the income account and expense account to this view. So if you go to the column settings, make sure that you have your income account and expense account selected. You'll see this is how QuickBooks decides where information is posted to the chart of accounts. Corecon has also provided an import template used by Intuit QuickBooks Online to add these items to your products and services. It's also important to note that only the Intuit QuickBooks Online Plus or greater can be used for this purpose. The more basic versions of QuickBooks Online do not have one of the features needed for information to flow from Corecon through QuickBooks Online. My list includes several methods of exporting information from Corecon to QuickBooks Online. We encourage you to select one of the methods. The methods are outlined in a knowledge base article. There are several options or methods to do this. Keep in mind that when we talk about these methods, we're talking about cost. When we're done this process, you'll still use QuickBooks Online to manage your general ledger and chart of accounts. You'll still reconcile your bank accounts and credit card liability accounts in QuickBooks Online. You'll still print your balance sheet, income statement, accounts receivable aging, accounts payable aging, all out of QuickBooks Online. You'll also, most likely, continue to track non-job related expenses or general and administrative expenses in QuickBooks Online. But the portion that Corecon contributes is anything that relates to job revenue or job cost of goods sold. When information is imported into QuickBooks Online, Sync Preferences in the CoreconLink is used to determine which GL accounts are on the opposite side of the entry. For example, if you're entering a prime invoice or customer invoice in Corecon and you export it to QuickBooks, the settings we'll talk about in the video on Sync Preferences will determine what the opposite side of the entry is, the credit being a revenue account, the debit being an accounts receivable account. The same is true with bills. The debit will be to cost of goods sold, the credit will be to accounts payable. But the part we're talking about here, as far as Sync Preferences, relates just to the cost of goods sold and how that information is tracked in QuickBooks Online. Since there's an indefinite amount of detail tracked in Corecon and can be illustrated in Corecon's reporting, a limited amount of information is needed on the QuickBooks Online side of that bridge. We're going to work in reverse order as we discuss these. The last item on the list is the AutoLink service item based on the project number, exact match only. This is very rarely used and relates more toward and works best with construction companies that build for their own use, meaning their WIP analysis is based on balance sheet accounts. Corecon and all the other options will already track everything by project number. So again, this one's very rarely used. The one above that is called AutoLink service item based on the job cost code description, exact match only. This is not recommended. The reason for that is that Corecon job cost code descriptions can change from project to project, and the CoreconLink and QuickBooks will have a hard time finding an exact match if someone does change that description. However, the option just above that, AutoLink service item based on job cost code exact match only, is very commonly used. In this situation, the CoreconLink is going to look for a job cost code number. If that job cost code number is showing up as a service item in QuickBooks, that's where that information will post. If it doesn't find the job cost code number, it then looks to the division code number from the master cost code list. If it finds an exact match in the QuickBooks Online service items, that's where that transaction will post. If it finds neither the job cost code number or the master cost code division code number, it will then post to an item that we call CCUNC, or Corecon Unclassified. Above that is another option to link service items to a specific project classification. This comes in handy if you have different product lines, groups, divisions, or departments in your company. If every project is tagged to one of these project classifications, which you will define, then the CoreconLink to QuickBooks will post information based on that project classification. Above that, another option is to link service items based on the resource type. Resource types are categories that are an additional level of detail or classification under job cost codes, namely materials, labor, equipment, subcontract, and other. This is a very popular method because only 5 GL accounts under cost of goods sold are required, and the information is summarized in a way that makes it easier to reconcile when you're trying to match total cost in Corecon to total cost in QuickBooks Online. Finally, the most simple method is the link all Corecon job cost codes to a single service item, where the single service item has 2 GL accounts. One is posting revenue, the other simply to one cost of goods sold GL account. Remember, when selecting from this list, you only have one option when it comes to service items. Once you've decided which sync preferences to use, Corecon knowledge base articles provide you the import templates to bring that information directly into QuickBooks Online service items without having to manually key that information. If we jump back over to my products and services in QuickBooks Online, you'll see that the MLESO method requires 5 service items. The job cost code exact match would require divisions and or job cost code numbers that match exactly what's in your master cost code list in Corecon. You can also have a single item for the very first method that was shown on that knowledge base article, where one account is needed for an income account, one is needed for cost of goods sold. There are 3 other possible items needed unrelated to that previous article. One is a sales tax AP account, which is more related to QuickBooks Online Plus users in the United States. The purpose of this service item is to make sure that any purchases that include a sales tax that has a separate line for sales tax is forced into cost of goods sold instead of sales tax payable. You can also have a retainage or a holdback service item, which serves 2 purposes, one for accounts receivable, one for accounts payable, but that will drive the retainage or holdback receivable into an other current asset account and the retainage or holdback payable into an other current liability account. Finally, there's an item that we call CCUNC, or Corecon Unclassified. This item is used more when you choose to post information by job cost code number. Remember that Corecon will look first for the job cost code and then for a division code. If it doesn't find matches for either, it posts it into a clearing service item. If you're using that method, you'll want to check that CCUNC service item frequently. And if there is information posted there, not just reclassify it, but also try to figure out why it's there so it doesn't continue to happen. Before you continue any further in your setup of the CoreconLink to QuickBooks Online, we do encourage you to review this information with anyone in your company involved in your accounting, bookkeeping, or anyone that would read executive level reporting. We always recommend less detail than more, just because it's less information to manage and reconcile. If we go back to the knowledge base articles in Corecon related to this subject, you may want to take a look at the importing CSI and NAHB codes into QuickBooks Online. There you'll find a series of sample spreadsheets that you can use to import the information directly into the QuickBooks Online service items. There's also another knowledge base article that covers methods used if you elect to use the classes feature in QuickBooks Online. If you open this PDF and scroll down, you're going to see another slide that shows those same job cost code linking options for sync preferences, but also how you can add another layer of detail by using class linking. Notice that not all of the methods for the Service items can be used for class linking, but by using classes you can combine and add an additional level of detail. Back to QuickBooks Online, service items. This is the first in 4 videos. If you'd like to know more about the information presented in this training video, we encourage you to go to Corecon, to Knowledge Base, scroll down to the Integration and Public APIs, and select Accounting and ERP Systems. The information discussed in this training video can be found in the Knowledge Base articles under the heading CoreconLink for QuickBooks Online.